This is the ultimate escape of a real drama and fake. In the face of the whole roundup, 6 people disguised themselves as Hollywood stars, boarded the plane and left Tehran openly. This is the true portrayal of the movie Escape from Tehran. At this time, 8 people walked into the terminal. Their suitcases were neatly pasted with Canadian maple leaf stickers. They were wearing leather jackets and sunglasses, and they looked like a movie crew that had just finished shooting on location. But no one knew that in this seemingly ordinary setup group, 6 people were American diplomats who were hunted down by the Iranian authorities, and the other 2 people were secretly sneaking into Tehran to carry out evacuation missions. The Canadian passports they carried with them were all forged, and the bags contained the business cards of Hollywood production companies that had never been registered and would never invest the screenplay shot, and an Iranian entry visa stamp that almost made the whole plan fail. At 10:30 a.m. on November 4, 1979, in the US Embassy in central Tehran, about 70 American staff were working step by step, dealing with daily affairs, however. The crowd outside the embassy was rapidly gathering. At first, there were only a few hundred students, and soon it reached thousands. They shouted slogans, waved placards, and constantly stormed the metal gate of the embassy. Everyone present thought that this was just a regular protest. But at 10:30, the students suddenly launched a collective charge and cut the iron chain of the main gate. Countless people poured into the embassy compound. The Marine station fired tear gas, but they could not stop the surging crowd. In just a few minutes, 66 Americans were controlled. The only demand of the demonstrators was to repatriate Mohammed Reza Pahlavi, who had fled Iran. They declared that as long as 8 listed as not returning to Iran, no one would be allowed to leave. This diplomatic crisis that shocked the world, this broke out and finally lasted for 444 days. But 6 Americans narrowly escaped the arrest. When the demonstrators rushed into the main building, Robert Anders and other 6 employees heard screams from outside. Quickly, make a decision to quickly evacuate from the back door and disappear into the streets of Tehran. Without weapons, without plans, without security personnel, 6 Americans were so defenseless and stepped into the most dangerous city for Americans at that time. Anders initially planned to lead everyone to the British embassy to seek asylum. But when they walked nearby, they found that the front of the British embassy had been surrounded by thousands of protesters. In desperation, the group could only temporarily hide in the private apartment of Ander Temple. For the next 6 days, they kept changing their hiding places, and they didn't dare to stay anywhere for more than 24 hours. In the desperate situation, Anders dialed the phone of the Canadian embassy. Canadian immigration officials. John Hill did not hesitate at all and immediately agreed to them to go to the embassy. Eventually, 4 people lived in Hill's home, and the other 2 hid in the residence of the Canadian ambassador and Ken Taylor. 6 Americans disappeared from the streets of Tehran completely. However, hiding is not a long-term solution after all. The only way is to evacuate as soon as possible. But Tehran airport was closely guarded. The land border is hundreds of kilometers away, and 6 people do not have any legal identity documents. What is even more worrying is that the Iranian side is organizing hundreds of women to hand-stitch the shredded documents of the US Embassy. It will not take long for them to find that there are 6 Americans missing, and time passes day by day. The 6 trapped Americans are living a secluded life. They rely on endless Scrabble games to pass the time, and they dare not make any loud noises, always worry that the next second will think of a rapid knock on the door. At the same time, the US intelligence agencies in Washington have urgently formulated multiple rescue plans, but they have all been rejected one by one because of the high risk. Any seemingly safe identity disguise may be revealed in an instant under strict scrutiny, just when everyone is helpless. Senior Agent Tony Mendez put forward a bold and almost absurd idea. Mendez is an evacuation expert from the US Intelligence Agency and Technical Service Department. In order to make this lie invulnerable, Mendez is best at transferring people in danger from dangerous state secrets. Contrary to ordinary people, the safest cover is not deliberately low-key, but high-profile, so that no one will suspect that this is an intelligence operation. He plans to let 6 Americans disguise themselves as a Canadian film crew and shoot a sci-fi film, in the name of going to Iran to inspect the location, and then leave by plane in the open. This idea sounds like a fantasy, but this is precisely the key to his success. In order to make this lie invulnerable, Mendez not only made up a story, but really created a complete for the film project. He found the legendary makeup artist John Chambers, the master who won the Oscar, honorary award for the personnel star in the Ball series, and is also a secret of the US Intelligence Agency. It only took the 2 of them 4 days to work on the Hollywood Sunset Gertzy Studios, rented an office, set up a production company called Sixth Studio, and hired staff to answer the phone. They also needed a suitable script. Chambers happened to have a shelved project. An adaptation of the science fiction novel King of Light, Tony Mendez renamed the script Argo, set the story in the Middle East, including scenes such as deserts, depression and passing away, perfectly explaining why they went to Iran and inspected the location. They published full-page advertisements in variety shows, and The Hollywood Reporter announced that Algeria will be officially launched in March 1980. Unexpectedly, 26 real film directors sent letters seeking cooperation, including some well-known people in the industry such as Spielberg. On January 23, 1980, Mendez received the final approval from the White House, and President Carter officially approved the operation. 2 days later, Mendez and his colleague Ed Johnson flew to Tehran. The two brought a full set of Algeria propaganda materials. There are also real blank passports issued by the Prime Minister of Canada. But when checking the documents, a detail that determines success or failure was discovered. The forged Iranian entry visa used skill, while the Iranian official used solar power. As long as the customs officers checked the date a little bit, the whole plan would be thoroughly exposed, fortunately. They brought a few more blank passports. Mendez and Johnson stayed up all night, remade all the visas with the correct dates, and the signature barely filled the loophole. The next day, Mendez finally saw the 6 Americans who have been hiding for nearly 80 days. These diplomats with no intelligence work experience have only 1 day to remember their new identity, new name, and all the details about this fictional film. Mendez formulated a simple password, smiling to indicate that everything is normal. Touching the cheek will immediately terminate the operation. Everyone has been practicing until late at night. They all know that they only have one chance. At 3 a.m. on January 27th, the operation officially began. Mendez deliberately chose the earliest flight. At this time, customs officials and guards, most of them are still sleepy 5:30. A group of people arrived at Mehrabad Airport. There were almost no passengers in the terminal. They walked to the passport control office. This is the most critical level of the whole operation. 8 people, 8 fake identities, a complete set of forged documents. Not far from the guards standing with live ammunition, the immigration officer picked up the first passport, opened the control photo, turned to the visa page, and paused for a moment. And then, with a crisp stamping sound, the first one passed smoothly, one by one. All 8 passports were stamped smoothly. The immigration officer did not show any interest in this Canadian film-setting team, did not ask any questions about the movie, nor did they make any verification calls. Everyone passed the passport control and entered the departure hall. But there is no real safety. As long as the plane has not left the territory of Iran, any accident may happen. The boarding notice came on the radio at 6:45, just when everyone breathed a sigh of relief. The second notice rang one after another. The flight was delayed due to mechanical failure. The maintenance time was to be determined, and the whole team fell into a passive position in an instant. Every extra minute of stay, there was a little more danger of exposure. Mendez forced himself to calm down and let everyone visit duty-free shops and read newspapers like ordinary tourists. Don't show any anxiety. After an hour of long waiting, the broadcast finally came, the good news. The fault has been eliminated, the flight can be boarded. They got on the shuttle, crossed the tarmac, climbed the plane's string ladder. The door closed, the engine started, and the plane slowly slid towards the runway. When the nose lifted the wheels and left the ground, at that moment, the cabin was silent. No one spoke, and no one celebrated, until the pilot announced on the radio that the plane had left Iranian airspace and entered the sky over Turkey. McLejack ordered a cup of bloody horse force, and everyone's tense nerves were completely relaxed. At this time, Mendez finally showed a long-lost smile. 79 days of hiding, a shocking hoax compiled with fake movies. The news that the 6 Americans were finally freed and the rescue was successful was soon reported by a Canadian. The reporter's exposure caused a sensation all over the world. In order to rescue these 6 people, Canada completely severed diplomatic relations with Iran, and the participation of the U.S. intelligence agency in this operation was strictly kept secret, just to protect all the American hostages still being held. Once the role of the U.S. intelligence agency being exposed will only make the situation of the remaining hostages more dangerous. All the remaining hostages spent a long 444 days in Iran. It was not until January 20th, 1981, when Lee Khan was sworn in as president, that 52 hostages were finally released.